Sleeping Children by Anthony Passeron. Read by Ben Kaplan. Translated from French by Frank Wynne. Prologue. One day I asked my father what was the most distant city he'd ever visited. He simply said Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and nothing more. Not looking up from his work, he carried on butchering dead animals. He had blood all over him, even his face. When I wanted to know why he had made the trip, I thought I saw his jaw muscles tense. Was it the truculent hip joint of the veal haunch refusing to yield, or my question that had set his teeth on edge? I didn't understand. There was a dull snap, then a sigh, and finally he said, "To go fetch that dumb bastard Désiré." I had cut to the bone. It was the first time in my young life I'd ever heard him utter his older brother's name. My uncle had died a few years after I was born. I'd found photos of him in the shoebox where my parents kept photographs and Super 8 movies. In them you could see dead people who were still alive, dogs, old people who were still young, holidays at the sea or in the mountains, more dogs, yet more dogs, and family reunions. People in their Sunday bests gather for weddings whose vows would be broken. My brother and I would spend hours leafing through these photos. We'd laugh at the clothes people wore, try to recognize family members. Sooner or later, our mother would tell us to put them away, as though these memories somehow made her uncomfortable. I had thousands of other questions for my father. Easy ones like, to get to Amsterdam, do you turn left or right after the church? Others more difficult. I wanted to know why. Why had my father, who never left the village, trekked across Europe to fetch his brother? But no sooner did a breach open in the dam holding back his grief and anger than he swiftly plugged it up for fear of being completely engulfed. Everyone in the family did the same when it came to Désiré. My father and grandfather never mentioned him. My mother always cut short her explanations and always with the same words. It was all terribly sad, really. As for my grandmother, she dodged every question with mindless euphemisms, with stories of the dead people going to heaven and watching over the living here below. Each in their own way appropriated the truth. Today, almost nothing of the story remains. My father has left the village, my grandparents are dead. Even the village where it played out is crumbling. This is a last-ditch attempt to ensure that something survives. It is a mixture of memories, half-finished confessions, and documented reconstructions. It is the fruit of their silence. I wanted to tell the story of what our family, like many others, lived through in total isolation. But how can I put their story into my words without robbing them of theirs? How can I speak on their behalf without my point of view, my preoccupations replacing theirs? These questions long prevented me from starting to write this, until I realized that only by writing could I make sure that my family's story did not disappear with them, with the village. To prove to them that Désiré's life was inscribed into the chaos of the world, a maelstrom of facts, historical, geographical and social, and to help them to move beyond their grief, to step out from the solitude into which they had been plunged by sadness and shame. For once, they will be at the center of the map, and all the material that usually gets attention will be relegated to the margins. Far from the city, from the cutting edge of science and medicine, far from the politically committed artists and activists, there will finally be a place where they exist. Part 1. Désiré. MMWR. The Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, published in the United States by the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia, has few subscribers in France. They include Willy Rosenbaum, an infectious disease specialist at Claude Bernard Hospital in Paris. At 35 years old, with his motorbike, his long hair and his past as an activist in Nicaragua and El Salvador, he cuts a curious figure in the medical community in Paris. On the morning of the 5th of June 1981, he is thumbing through the MMWR that has just landed on his desk. In it, there is an account of pneumocystis pneumonia, an extremely rare lung infection. It was assumed to have been almost eradicated, but according to the American service that records dispensing rates for medications, it has made a sudden, almost unbelievable resurgence.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?